All right, and welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune Vice Presidential Debate Analysis. My name is Mo Rock alongside Dr. Natalie Forrest. Dr. Forrest, welcome to the live streaming event. Before we get into what this is going to be, we would like to thank all of the people watching this on all of the different platforms. This is live, and we are about to express real people, real voters, and real Americans directly from the people. I'd like to start off by saying that here at the Los Angeles Tribune, we are allowing people to have their own opinions. All of the people here speak only for themselves and not us as a publication. And if you know anything about our publication, you know that we always stand for the people, of the people, and by the people. So, Dr. Forrest, first thoughts, a little bit of an introduction to the people watching this all around the world, and then we'll bring in our group of randomly selected Americans to share their opinion.
Well, first of all, thank you. And I'm excited that we're doing this analysis because very often vice presidential debates don't get that kind of attention. I think this is a very crucial and different year because of the age of the two candidates. So looking at the vice presidents is crucial. I also believe it is crucial, as we have seen, because of the current underlying divisions or perceived divisions, to really look at all of the different aspects. And so it is crucial, I believe, at this point in time to take a look at not just what did they say, but also from a historical point of view, what did they not say? What makes us a first? What makes us different? And of course, what did they show us by acting out, not acting out, and interacting? So I can't wait to see all of our panelists come on and share their thoughts as well.
Absolutely. And let's go ahead and bring some of the folks in. Again, this is a randomly selected group of real American voters that have a real stake in the game, so to say. I'd like to start off by allowing each of the people here, and we will have one or two more people joining us, to just go ahead and give a brief introduction. Give us your name, what you do, and where you are joining us from. Let's go ahead and start with Ken Walls.
Hey, I'm Ken Walls. I'm in just north of Columbus, Ohio. I'm the CEO of a company I've had for about 17 years. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And we'll be circling back to you, Ken. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us. And let's go ahead now to Axel Tillman.
Hello, my name is Axel Tillman. First of all, thank you for inviting me tonight. It's very exciting. And I am the CEO of Alpha Consult, a consulting firm that deals with a lot of going-to-market strategy. And we have seen a little bit of going-to-market different tonight, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And next is Andre Torres. Where are you joining us from?
Hi, doing? It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Andre Torres. I'm from Anaheim, California. I currently work at a tax firm, so I'm very excited to be here and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Torres. And Lene Cook-Braxton.
Good evening, Mo and Dr. Natalie and the rest of the panel. My name is Lene Cook-Braxton, and I own a company called Holistic Performance Center and am a doctoral candidate in mind-body medicine, as well as a Los Angeles Tribune columnist, along with a sports psychology consultant here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Thank you. And Glenn Morshower.
How are you? I am honored to be here with all of you and missed out on the opening in terms of what introduction we're supposed to give, but I am a grateful citizen of the world who lives here in Dallas, Texas, and just glad to hear what everyone has to think about the condition of our country.
Thank you very much, Glenn. And as stated earlier, this was a randomly selected group. We did not consult with them before joining this program because we want to let people have a free forum. And I would encourage all of the people here to express what's on their mind, whether you agree or disagree or agree to disagree. Here at the Los Angeles Tribune, we stand for the First Amendment, and we always will stand for the First Amendment and your right to say what's on your mind. And I may not always agree with what you have to say, but I will fight as an American for your right to say it. So let's go ahead and start with Ken Walls' first impressions of the 2020 vice presidential debate. The floor is yours.
Well, I am not as confused as I was after the presidential debate. I can say that. That was crazy. Look, I'm a big Trump fan, and I think he's done a fantastic job leading this country. I think that we need a business person, not a career politician, in control of some of the most important parts financially for our country. I saw my business skyrocket since Trump took office. I did notice, they talked a lot about the repeal of Obamacare, and that would be a great blessing, because the moment that Obamacare went into place, my insurance for my family as a business owner went from $600 a month to $2,200 a month, and became incredibly unaffordable. And I've not had health insurance for my family since that date. So, because I can't afford it, it's far too expensive. So something needs to be done. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but I do know that something needs to change with it, because it was a horrible, horrible thing for me personally, and a lot of friends of mine that own businesses.
I'd like to say, Ken, I am sorry to hear about your family's lack of insurance. That is really horrible. I also think it's unfortunate that you weren't educated on the ins and outs, as you said, of the program, of the Affordable Care Act. I know a nickname is Obamacare, and President Obama recently said that he enjoys the Affordable Care Act being called Obamacare. However, to, on one hand, say that you don't know the ins and outs, and then on another hand, say it's a horrible program, it's somewhat contradictory, although I do respect, and my heart goes out to you for not having insurance for your family.
I mean, I thank you. I don't need anybody's heart to go out to me. I just pay the bills as they happen in cash. So, I mean, again, I'm one of those people that I've never taken a handout. The government, I don't want money from the government. I make my own way in life, and I don't believe in handouts personally. So, I think, my opinion is with Maverick, who's up on the screen right now. I think Pence killed it tonight.
Just going into that with the whole Obamacare, or Affordable Care Act, as it's called. I personally know a lot of people who try to get enrolled in that program, and you can either get a I guess a plan where it's really expensive and it covers a lot, or you can get something that's affordable, if that's what you want to call it, and you would have a hard time finding doctors that would actually take that insurance. And you want to get proper care, you want to get the right care, you want to get maybe a doctor that you're familiar with. And now when you call that office to try to get that insurance, see if it covers it, 9 times out of 10, a lot of doctors' offices we're not taking that Obamacare, if you want to call it that. So that put a lot of people in a bad situation with healthcare.
Yeah, I have to 100% agree. As an immigrant from Germany, knowing how the German healthcare system works, it's a percentage of your tax bill. So what you actually pay is 22% of your taxes, half of which, 11%, is paid by the company you work for, and half of it is coming out of your pre-tax income. And it has no limit to the top. So unlike in the United States, where if you are an employee of IBM, then the healthcare for a family is $750. If you're a standalone young entrepreneur that starts something, your healthcare bill is $2,500. This thing is on its head, as it should be. And to your point, Ken, my healthcare bill went also up by over 120% from the day Obamacare was put into place. I find this absolutely unacceptable. And if you wanted to reform healthcare, then you should have included dental care into this thing as well, because everybody has excluded this. And guess what? When your teeth are rotting, your body goes down as well. So, but going back to the debate, it was a stark positive difference to the first presidential debate, right? So there was much more civil discourse. There was no yelling at each other, and with a minimal overtalk on both sides. What I didn't like was the disrespect that I saw when there was always a smiling on one side going on, which I saw on one side much more so than in another. I think there should be a more civil seriousness on both sides versus having these underlying facial expressions. I leave it for this. I have more to say later.
Yes.
Well,
I'm glad that we got back to the debate regarding handouts. Maybe we can address that a little later. But I did want to stick to the facts of the debate. The reality is, if we talk about healthcare, we cannot mention healthcare without mentioning that 210,000 people have died from COVID-19. So I'd love to discuss the first topic.
Okay, if you want to go there, I'm extremely educated on the subject matter. I have following this since January. We had actually the Los Angeles Tribune Summit where Del Bigtree was also speaking, whom I actually 100% agree. So
Yes.
I have analyzed CDC statistics. First of all, let's understand that only 10% of all overall deaths in the United States have died, and now comes the critical term, with COVID, not from COVID. There is a hidden table in the CDC table which actually shows you that the people who died from COVID are only about 10%. So here is the unfortunate subject matter. This fictitious number of 210,000 deaths has been blown out, taken out of proportion, and has been misused for political manipulation. Manipulation that actually caused more deaths than the corona deaths has actually caused by people having lost their jobs, people going into alcoholism, people getting depressed, and not getting their medical treatment. I have friends in Northern California where the wife no longer went to her dialysis treatment because the hospital didn't allow her in anymore for the alleged COVID scenario. And I believe there are thousands of these cases around the United States. So again, we saw in this debate the false hostage and the current economic crisis that has been created through this so-called health crisis, and blame an administration that in whose power it was to do something about it, right? The facts were manipulated by the press.
So can I jump in here for a second?
Please.
I love that we're getting into the details. If possible, I'd like us to stay on the debate a little bit more, because as a historian and as somebody who likes to analyze things, I think statistic can be looked any which way, and there are also some issues with people currently trusting the CDC, for example.
Yeah.
But aside from that, we know we have different data from different people, just like the polls today. One group is up 20%, the next day it's reversed. So we know there's a little bit of, let's use the official term, iffiness around this. So let's look at some of the other aspects of the debate. Clearly, COVID was one issue. The economy, Axel, as you just mentioned, was clearly another. There were also, since we're talking about who said what and what are the facts, so also the Green Deal was brought up a number of times, and environmental change. So how do you think both sides or either side did on the issue of climate change and or the idea of how do we deal with what seems to be, scientifically speaking, an agreement that there is climate change? How did they handle that?
Great question. I would love to get Glenn Morshower in because he's the only one that has not spoken yet.
Yes.
Let's start that off with the only person on this panel who hasn't spoken yet, and circle around with everyone else.
Well, first of all, thank you for even saying that. I'm probably going to be a little unique in my perspective in that I am a fan of the human race and don't give 2 cents about a political race. I am an enormous fan of us as human beings, and I have a vested interest in the survival, not of our country, but of our world. We walk around saying, God bless America. And one of these days, we're going to figure out how to say, God bless this world, which will be a term of inclusivity and will keep us from fighting with one another. I see myself in others. I see them in me. And that allows me to bless all of humankind, to be committed to be at peace with humankind. I think that being right in general is highly overrated. I'm 61 years old. I have massively enjoyed my life. I have been blessed immeasurably with privileged experiences. I was raised well. I have love in my heart. And I think that what is fundamentally flawed in our country, if I may say so, is that we have division like I have not seen since I was a little boy. Growing up here in Texas, I went and spent 36 really awakening years in Southern California. I loved living there. I am back here in Texas now and love living here. All I'm saying is that we are at a time in my view where it is very dangerous to affiliate with a party and vote the party when what we need to be doing is voting the individual. And whether or not we think, and I think this is the bottom line question, are we better off than we were 4 years ago, yes or no, in your heart? And I can't tell you what is so for your heart. That's why we vote. That's why we vote our conscience. I am not here to change anyone's opinion, but I have opinions about who I think is most qualified for the job, but it is not politically motivated, nor is it party motivated. It's what I really think is in the best interest of humanitarians. That's it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's why Glenn is my brother.
Well, I think if I may take that, and I know that somebody just requested that Andre is going to say something too. Some of our Facebook viewers have said that. But if I may take what you just mentioned, Glenn, the idea of we're all the human race. One item that did come up, one issue that did come up in the debate was alliances, or who do we work with, who do we not work with, and of course a variety of ways. So going from my initial question to take your lead here, Glenn, how did you think the two candidates responded to, or have you changed your mind? Maybe that's a better question without asking where you went. Have you changed your mind in regards to the importance of alliances, of everybody, humanity being one? What are your thoughts on some of those issues as well?
No, I really haven't changed my mind at all. And I went in with an open mind. I'm in show business. And in show business, an open mind is a prerequisite. There is no way you will be successful at portraying another human being unless you possess compassion and an open mind and an open heart. That's just the truth. That's a primary ingredient of a performing artist. And I've been that for 50 years. It's been my whole life. I specifically, in watching it, I did watch, and I watched the debate last week as well. But tonight and even last week, I can't understand. I just need to say this. First of all, the point made with regard to, the smile that we saw. I don't think it's as though there is such a thing as a disrespectful face, nor do I think that there is only one face available to a human being. We don't have a requirement that our face should look a particular way. There's no rule in the world about how a face looks while it shares what it shares. I find that interrupting someone is far more disrespectful than what appearance might be on someone's face. And frankly, out of the four debaters that we've had all four parties who don't know how to honor a 2-minute rule. All four. All four individual people. And so when you are told that your time is up, that doesn't mean your time is almost up. And tonight, what we heard are repeated warnings of, that's it, your time is up, your time is up, your time is up. And most of them on one side, and I don't need to say what side. If you were watching, you noticed. But on one side, it was excessive. It was not balanced at all. That is not said with a leaning. That is said from an impartial place. And I don't know how you can go over with 3 and 4 warnings on average. Is that supposed to be a sign of strength? I don't know. I don't know.
So, Andre, do you have any thoughts on any of the items that that Glenn just mentioned, or do you want to bring another point of view in?
I think for me right now, what's really big in America is a race. Everything has the division that we're seeing a lot is because of racism, correct? And that's what I'm hearing. That's what I see. But it also comes back to me. I always look at things as you make your own decisions, and the decisions that you make are what's going to dictate the future for you and for your family. And I say this from a personal point of view. I am Hispanic, so there should be some systematic racism, I guess, on my part, right? And I've done very well for myself. I've done a lot better with Trump being in office, and that's just something that I did for myself personally, mentally. So I have friends who are African American, they're Asian, Indian. I don't look at people as what their race are. Everything is brought up with race with one side or the other. But because it's such an important thing right now that I don't look, again, like I said, I don't look at my friend like, oh, he's a black guy. Oh, he's an Indian guy. They're just my friends. And that's something that, going back to what you were saying, it's God bless America. Well, God bless the whole world. We're a human race. And I don't believe, and I might get a lot of heat from this, but I'm not a firm believer in certain lives mattering. I believe in all lives mattering. I know that's not the right thing, the PC thing to say at this point, but I feel that if you have to put a color before the words lives matter, you really have to rethink in yourself to what's really happening inside of your head. Because I have friends who are from a specific race who are doing a lot better than people who are not from that specific race. And it's all because of the decisions that they made. I've seen, I've had friends who are, incarcerated, friends who are lawyers, friends who are police officers of the same race. They all came up in the same county, same upbringing, but the choices that they decided to make dictated where they are now in life. And that's just my personal opinion.
But you do have to acknowledge that it's not always a question of choice. It's a choice of circumstance, or it's an element of circumstance. Yeah. So,
they all came from a single mother home. Their father wasn't there. The circumstances were all the same. Their mom worked 2 jobs. Their mom was really never there with them. And they all decided to make their choices as young kids and young adults to dictate where they are in life now. But I do get what sometimes it is out of their hands.
So for example, one thing that that goes a little bit off the topic of discussing the debate, but the debate had the racial issue in there. I have never understood from the day of immigration why the census has to determine whether I'm white, black, Hispanic, or anybody else. If I want to have a good school system in a particular region, then it should be solely effect of the number of people living in this region, not whether they are black, white, green, yellow, or whatever. So why is this being actually asked from us during the census? Seems to imply to me that there is purposefully disappropriation of resources ultimately made. And yeah, please.
Yes, Axel, with all due respect, I understand what you're saying. And Dr. Natalie, with all due respect to you, you steered us to stay on topic with the debate. I'd like to stay on topic with the debate if we're going to do that. There are a couple of issues that we have to discuss. We touched on healthcare. Chances are we're not going to have everyone ever agree, as Glenn so eloquently said. People are people, and we're all entitled to our own opinions. But there are other issues. When we talk about the vaccine, the succession plan, should something happen to the president, since he is now in the hospital. We need to touch on the economy. And then things go deeper than just race. We can talk about implicit bias. That was mentioned. Law enforcement. There's so many layers to all of these topics. I personally, as a woman of color, a Black woman, and with all due respect, it's okay to say Black woman. I'm proud of that. There's no need to say we don't see color. Please see it. Please do. I'd love for you to acknowledge that. Thank you. As you can see, I'm the only one here. Now, you talk about choices and not acknowledging that certain people, even coming into this world by the color of their skin, whether you are Hispanic or African American, it's okay to say that that was their stance in life and choices that they've made. This is this is okay to say that perhaps they were given a raw deal. That's okay as well. My father is the first African American vendor with the Professional Golf Association, who started a minority program and has done 5 Ryder Cups as a vendor, unheard of when he came on board. Now, was that a choice? Or starting as a caddy at 13 years old on a golf course, was that a choice as well? So we can form things to sound however we want them to. However, getting back to the debate, as Dr. Natalie said we needed to stay on, which we did not, we need to address things like the Supreme Court, like religion, pro-life, pro-choice. So I'd just like to steer us in that direction, please.
And I think those are great points. In that vein, religion, of course, comes up a lot, and especially as you just mentioned, Lene, it comes up right now even more because Catholic voters are considered a swing group. And I'm also going to tie it back to what Glenn and Andre both said, which is the human dignity aspect, right? So when we're looking at Catholic voters, they are looking at which person, which party represents human dignity the best. And they fall on both sides. So that's always kind of interesting to see. Part of the conversation when it comes to religion right now is not just that there's Catholicism involved, which is rare in a president in the United States. It also has to do with the fact, of course, taking up your second aspect, Lenny, with the Supreme Court judge and justice and the perceived fear. Whether it's real or not is a different story, but there is a perceived fear of which way she may vote on issues like Roe v. Wade. So let's ask some of the gentlemen to talk about that fun subject of Roe v. Wade. Not directly about that, because we want to stay, of course, with the topic itself of how did the candidates address that issue, or did they? Because there was a lot of not answering too, right? Yes, please go ahead.
I am in full support of God being the judge of people, not me. So, like, if you're going to kill a baby that's in a mother's womb, that's between you and God. I don't personally, I don't care. I mean, I do, obviously. I don't want to see human lives go, but it's not. It's between you and God. If you're a woman and you have an abortion, I'm not judging you. You'll have your day in court, so to speak. So I'm not. It's not up to me. I that's the part that I think that a lot of people in not just this country, but as Glenn says, throughout the world, there seems to be this thing where we don't want to take personal responsibility for our own lives, our own success. And whether you're a black man, a black woman, a green man or a green woman living in on planet Earth, if you take responsibility for your life and the direction of your life, I mean, since COVID hit, my business has literally gone up probably 3 times in size. So, like, it's done nothing but benefit me. So when I take responsibility for my life, though, I'm not looking to point the finger and blame, Kamala Harris or Trump or anybody else. I take responsibility for my life. And that's where I think that we need to start stop throwing stones. Stop. And I mean, I've had a couple of black men on a show that I host here recently who are definitely Trump supporters, and they both have. One of them used to be in a gang, and he's like, you know what? I grew up. I took responsibility for my life, and now he's a very successful business owner. So I think, you know, when you stop trying to find fault with some, blaming other entities or people or groups or whatever for your lack of success or your lack of an ability to win in life, when you stop doing that and you take responsibility for your own growth in your own life, life becomes a whole lot more magical.
That's true.
It's true.
When-
I'm wondering how we got there, though, Ken. That seems to have strayed just a bit from the debate, and all those are your opinions. How does that relate necessarily to the issues covered in the debate?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I'm not as smart as you, obviously.
No, I would actually let me interrupt real quick, because I think it does relate to the subject of religion, right? Because that's how we started out, religion, and the idea of abortion, and we also seeing on the side here a lot of the comments coming in. So because we all have opinions, which is great, and I want to encourage more of that. You know, Lene and I were trying to as much as we can take a little bit of that more, I don't know, moderator position, which is not always easy because we have opinions too. So let's go back to the idea of the Supreme Court justice. And if I may just refresh everybody's memory, you know, of course, Ruth Bader Ginsburg just passed away, and her seat is open. It is, of course, as we all know, within the realm of the president to nominate and then ask for the nomination to be supported. So in this instance, it seems a little more complicated because of the short distance from here to the election. That's really what the debate seems to be about. Did any of you, so I'm going to try and phrase it very specifically, did any of you get a precise answer of what is going to happen in regards to the nomination and possible confirmation of the current nominee?
So here's my thought on that, and it's going to go back to the Roe versus Wade thing, right? Because one of the main reasons why they don't want her to be in that seat is because of her religious beliefs, right? And we've all heard Democrats, people saying that they want to pack that court to make it more favorable for one side than the other, correct? Now, that to me, again, going with the Supreme Court and with the abortion that we were talking about earlier, for me, that kind of ties in with one another. I'm a firm believer that a woman can make whatever choice she wants, okay? I'm very pro-life, but my pro-life views are very different than other people. I don't believe that if a woman gets raped, I don't believe she should carry her rapist baby. If it's something that can be done before there's a heartbeat in a matter of a few weeks to prevent her from getting pregnant, you know, I'm not no one to judge. They make their own choice. I'm not God. They're gonna have their day with their maker, right? And that's just how I feel about that. And I think one of the reasons why a certain side doesn't want to have her in the Supreme Court is because they're afraid that that's going to be repealed. And again, it goes back to the rights, the Second Amendment. People are trying to do gun control. Bad people still get guns. If you take abortion away, people are still going to find a way to do abortions. So that's never going to stop, no matter who's in the court. I just feel that a Supreme Court should be balanced on both sides, because they represent the American people as a whole, not the American people with certain beliefs.
So, in my opinion, Vice President Biden and President Obama, with a supermajority from 2009 to 2013, missed a huge opportunity to actually vote and push forward a constitutional change. Why is this important to understand? I had a Supreme Court judge from California who agreed with me with my legal analysis. Roe versus Wade never legalized abortion. Never did. Why? Because you can be convicted in a traffic accident. When you kill a woman by accident with a baby in the belly, you will be committed for double murder, not for single murder. So therefore, we have still the prevalence of law there that fully accepts that there was a life in the body. You need to fundamentally change the laws of the United States, and nobody ever lobbied for it because it's such a convenient topic every 2 years on every darn election to write this in the voters. Because in Germany, Natalie knows this, we solved that problem 72, 74, and it became a constitutional change. It was clearly defined what is allowed and what is illegal. And I really like to say, if I would ever run, which I cannot, because I'm an American, but I don't have the right because I'm a converted American. If I would write on any political ticket, I would say this country is based on religious freedom. Whether you kill or you don't kill a baby in a woman's body is a religious decision that the woman has to make up on her own, and should have the rights under certain conditions to correctly make that decision for herself. And we solved this problem in Europe, in every country. Only in the United States is prevailing. And now it impacts our decision whether there is a good judge should be appointed or not. I totally feel appalled about this inability to solve this problem once and for all.
I'd love to hear Glenn's take on this.
Yes.
Everyone has spoken.
I was just going to say that.
Specifically on what topic? I mean, we're a little bit all over the place. So.
Glenn. And
well, with regard to abortion, first of all, I'm not in a position to hold an opinion about something that I will never face as a man. I'll never face that. And so I feel, frankly, for people who are in such a situation in general. I also know that I'm a huge fan of the precious gift of life. Why? Because I'm here living one. And I'm really grateful that no one aborted me. That's all I can say. I'm grateful that no one was aborted here on this panel. And so we've been given a chance to live and breathe and move and have our being. I do think it's interesting. And again, this is not targeted toward a party. I just think it's interesting. Interesting. That's the only word I'll say. I don't have any other opinion about it. It's interesting that we work so hard to protect the unborn, which I'm a major fan of that. However, when are we going to work equally as hard to protect the born? Meaning us now, those of us who are here and breathing, because I don't think you can have it both ways. I think we have to be fans of life or not. And the fact that we have 210,000 people that have perished in this country, you can be very, very pro-life and still have stumbled in this way to not protect those of us who are actually here. And there are concerns that have not been addressed properly. And what seems to be missing, again, in my view, is that we don't have a unified response. So in life, if we have someone who is filling up the swamp and someone else is draining the swamp, then those two cancel each other out. If we have someone that's digging a hole and someone who is standing there filling up a hole, those two behaviors cancel one another out. We have not had a uniformed response to this global pandemic. If you compare all things being equal, for example, South Korea is 1/7 the size of the United States in population, and all things being equal, give or take, it would never be the mirror image, but give or take, our death toll should be approximately 7 times what theirs is if we had had a similar handling of the virus. But it is massively, colossally varied to the tune of approximately 300 deaths, a little bit over that now in South Korea, while we sit at 210,000. If you look at the math alone, we have to know you can't argue math. There is a story behind math, and the story behind math is a handling of this circumstance, which, by the way, nobody wants. Nobody on this panel wants it. I don't remember a memo being sent to humankind saying, how would you feel about a virus entering the world? Nobody wants it. We all want it to go away. And yet our handling of it is so divided that it is going to continue to linger because of our division, because of our handling of it. There's an old saying, it's the truth, that united we stand, divided we fall, and we are experiencing that fall right now in our country.
Yeah.
Powerful points, Glenn. I want to make sure we get everyone in this. Let's go ahead with Lene. I want to talk about the pandemic a little bit and the handling of the pandemic, because that was an important part of the debate, and it's been an important part of this whole election cycle. So let's start with Lene, and I know Axel is very passionate about that subject matter, but we want to hear from everyone. So let's start with Lene, and then Axel. Go ahead, Lene.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mo. As a doctoral candidate in mind-body medicine who has studied, like you, Axel, preventative care, as well as alternative and complementary modalities, I am very passionate about stopping this pandemic in its tracks. I think that there are certain things that could have been avoided as well. I also think that it says something, regardless of the numbers, that our president is in the hospital with this illness. That is fact. So in concentrating on the fact, I think all we can do is move forward in actually solving. We talk about a vaccine. Well, it's my understanding that the trials will be conducted on underserved communities. Who are those people? What do they look like? Who will the vaccine be tested on? Will they have pre-existing conditions? There's so much that we don't know. We need more information. So to answer Mo's question, that wasn't determined either. And I'd like more answers from both parties.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, I don't think either VP or the VP or Senator Harris really went into depth as what it is that they're going to be doing. We know what Trump and Pence have been doing, that they say it over and over. And again, what we hear Kamala Harris and what we hear Joe Biden say, it's pretty much the same thing. We're going to do tests. We're going to bring a vaccine. It all sounds the same. And I can tell you guys, just from personal experience with people. I have an uncle who is not even in the United States. He's in Mexico, and Mexico is getting hit hard as well. My uncle is 68 years old, diabetic. He has diabetes. He's overweight, heart conditions. He was in the hospital for a week, came out like nothing ever happened. I'm not saying that this isn't really going on. I don't want people saying, oh, it's a hoax, because it's not a hoax. I believe that coronavirus is real, but I'm going to go ahead and say, I don't believe the actual death numbers are correct, according to what the CDC has also said. I think it's 200,000 number.
Yeah, I like to support this. PCR, the RCT tests are absolutely unreliable. It is scientifically proven. Only the scientists will not be allowed to speak. They will be deleted on Facebook and everywhere else. That it actually tests for coronavirus. Coronavirus is the root cause of common cold. So if you are actually currently infected with a common cold, you are positive on the so-called COVID test, which is not a COVID test. There is also another antibody in that it also identifies false positive upon. So we cannot actually determine, unless we do on the people that died, a biopsy, which the university in Hamburg actually did, and found out it is only a fraction of the number of people that were actually labeled as being a COVID-infected person really died of the COVID-19 virus. So, and the number that are dying, death is a normal effect of us being humanly alive. Every year, this far, we are saying there's 200,000 deaths that occurred. There is 2.5 million deaths in this year that have occurred. 200,000 only attributed to the with COVID syndrome, not even from COVID.
Thank you, Axel.
It's one very important thing that we need to say. This country is divided in 50 states. The police power of what can happen in a given state is in the sole authority of the state. California, New Mexico, Arizona. There is nothing that a president can do. Uplift the quarantine here in California or instill it. This is in the authority of the governors of each individual state. The only thing that he was able to do was actually ban the flights. Whether I agree or not is not the subject matter, but the power of the federal government in this issue of policing, which is legally called, is extremely limited. So it's ironious that this is a discussion of a presidential debate of what you do or what you don't do. You never will have the power to begin with.
Thank you, Axel. And I want to get Ken Walls in on this. Everyone has touched on the pandemic other than Ken Walls. I'd like to hear from Ken Walls. Then I'm going to ask Natalie to take off her moderator hat and also chime in on this. So go ahead, Ken.
I don't know if I should. I agree with, and I am so sorry. I don't the gentleman with the yellow shirt. I don't remember. Axel. I agree with you. I have a friend here in Ohio that used to be the head of data for Cardinal Health, and they track hospital numbers all over the country. And I've had him on a show with me, and the numbers don't make sense. They don't add up. I know a lot of people in the medical field. I've traveled all over the United States. I've since the pandemic broke out, I've not put a mask on yet. Will not put a mask on. And I think that the bottom line is it's real, but it's not, the numbers don't add up. We haven't lost 210,000 people that have died of coronavirus. Something to remember is 150,000 people die every single day on this planet. 150,000 people a day. And that number's not changed since coronavirus hit. It's not changed. It's not gone up. So if that's the case, what is everybody dying from? I have a friend, an old friend. He's dead now, but I'm a recovered alcoholic with 18 years sober. This guy was a recovering alcoholic as well. He decided to drink one night. He grabs a bottle of whiskey, chugs the whiskey straight down, has a heart attack and died. On the spot, died. Did he die of a heart attack or alcoholism? It's the same argument. And we're labeling people that are, I've seen reports of people being in motorcycle accidents at the hospital said he died of COVID. It's insane. The numbers don't add up. So, I think that it's been a huge political thing. I think that, and I've said this before, and Glenn and I are literally like, we're brothers. Like, we talk every single day, and there's a lot of things we don't agree on everything at all. But here's the thing. I think that the politicians in this country, especially the long-term career politicians, what do they want to do? They want to create division among the citizens. If they can create enough division that one side gets the votes and the other side doesn't, then they win. And it's just all of this division. I haven't watched the news in 12 years. That's why, Mo, when you asked me to be on the panel, I'm like, dude, I haven't seen the news. I don't know, man. What's going on in the world? But I don't watch the news at all. I won't. I refuse to, because I don't allow the negativity into my life. I don't care if you're Democrat, Republican, in the middle. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. I truly don't. My goal in life is to take care of me and my family, and I truly don't think it matters who the president is. How's that for a panelist on this discussion?
Well, this is, the thing is, we want this to be a free forum with real people. We don't want you to tell us beforehand what your opinion is. No one at the Los Angeles Tribune will or has ever asked you what your political affiliation is. In fact, to be a prerequisite and to be a writer for the Los Angeles Tribune, you need to be a good person with good values, with good intentions. We don't care what your political affiliations are. And when you have real human beings having real conversations, and right now we're setting an example for all other media outlets. Look. Yeah. This is how it gets. It gets raw. It gets real. Emotions go up. Emotions go down. But this is the Los Angeles Tribune, and this is, how it used to be. okay, where people could come and agree to disagree and still have respect for one another, not only as Americans, but also, in the words of Glenn Morshower, beautifully and eloquently stated, citizens of the world. And speaking of Glenn Morshower, I do want to hear a little bit more from him, because he's been a hit on Periscope, a hit on Facebook, and a hit on YouTube. We're getting comments all over the platforms. So Glenn Morshower, we just want to hear a little more as we close the final 10 minutes of this panel. And we want to hear one final thought from everyone here before we wrap this up, starting with Glenn Morshower. The floor is yours.
Oh, well, we only have 10 minutes left. All right. Well, I didn't know that there was a built-in time limit on this. So good. I'll tell you, I'm not 100% certain. In fact, I'm leaning toward being more certain that I don't belong on this panel. And I'm going to tell you why. When I look over at the comments, I realize that whatever opinion we express, it is so subject to misinterpretation. And when people misinterpret your intent and the purity of your heart, then they begin to talk. For those of us who are in the business, it can be very dangerous to have chronic opinionitis flowing around about things that you neither said nor feel. So I was looking over at the comments, and one of the comments I saw questioned, do I revere life? And I will tell you, I've never met someone in my life who reveres it more.
I agree.
Ever. So the fact that that could even be asked of me means that I'm a part of a conversation right now that is misleading people to come up with false interpretations of what's really going on. So I would ask everybody here, why are we even gathered tonight? What are we trying to do? Why are we holding a panel? What are we after? What difference do we want to make? Are we here to need to be right? Are we here to push someone to agreeing with our side? Are we here to celebrate love and connectedness and moving forward in the best possible way we can, no matter who our leader is? I think that I don't fit into the typical political discussions. And honestly, this is the only one I've ever been in. And I think it's going to be the only one I ever am in. So nothing against anybody here, but I'm feeling a real sense of hurt that I could possibly have said anything that would have led anyone to believe that I don't revere life. I revere life of the born and the unborn. I revere all forms of life. I think it is precious. I think it is the most precious gift. It is, I mean, we outswam 500 million sperm to get here in the first place. That is an act of a winner. We are winners by divine design. It wasn't an accident. And any of us who feel like we are losers in any way, shape, or form, which I have been blessed to never feel that for so much as even 1 minute of my life. But I will share with you that I believe anyone who feels that we are losers or they are struggling with low self-esteem of any kind, that is learned behavior, because your nature, our nature, everyone's nature in the world is that of a winner. That is the reason we were gifted with this as the very first act that occurred in our life, is that we won against seemingly insurmountable odds. And I'm not making up that math. That's science. It's 500 million. And clearly something within us all wanted to express itself desperately. And that's why we're here. And we seem to have nothing better to do with our time than fight with one another to try to decide who wins and who's right. And I have no interest in being right nor winning. I'm grateful to be here. I love you all. I wish you the best with whoever you feel is correct for the assignment of the President and Vice President of the United States. And I sincerely mean that. Vote your conscience, my friends, all of you, but dig deep within before you do it. Connect with that still place within you that knows what the correct decision is to be in alignment with your heart.
Powerful. Thank you so much, Glenn. We appreciate those incredible, transcendent words. And the world desperately yearns right now for those kind of words as we go into the space of healing. Lene Cook Braxton, a very special and lovely woman. Please, the floor is yours. Final thoughts, final words. What would you like to leave the audience with?
Thank you, Mo. From a human perspective, unless anyone on this panel has had someone personally die with, to Axel's point, with COVID, not necessarily from COVID, but even COVID-related symptoms, then it becomes personal. At that point, the 200,000 number doesn't matter because it becomes your loved one. Unless anyone has felt that and experienced that, you cannot speak for that person. You can't. And I know people who have passed. And I will say this, numbers do matter, especially when certain people are dying more rapidly. And we cannot get away from the fact that there are people and persons of color that have died from COVID. And I know them personally. And just by sheer look of this panel, if you all do not have family members or know people that have died, we can use process of elimination to say how that feels. My thought is we are in this together. There will be a president voted in next month, whether we like it or not. And as Glenn said, choose wisely because our lives, Glenn did not say our lives depend on it, but I happen to feel our lives depend on it.
Incredible. Thank you for that, Lene Cook Braxton.
Lene, that was beautiful.
We appreciate it so much. Next, a really powerful gentleman who was actually a speaker at the LA Tribune Summit, Axel Tillman. Axel, what are your final thoughts and feelings as we have a very big audience right now, both on Periscope, YouTube, as well as Facebook. So what is it that you would like to let them know? And what is it you'd like to put out there in the universe as final thoughts on this debate and really the election in general?
Okay. So first of all, I would like to say that I totally agree with Glenn and with Lene in the subject matter that we as Americans and then ultimately we as people of the world have to come together. And yes, the numbers seem to never lie, but you know the old saying, figures never lie, but liars figure. So it's always a representation of how I present the numbers, right? And I can tell you, I'm very good in math. I can manipulate anything out of anything that I want to manipulate upon. And this is what's important. For us to come together, we need to be allowed to have a voice, to have the freedom of speaking, and we need to do this together, whether we are against something, for something, but only in the discourse do we find or potentially the common truth among everything. And I feel particular historic burden that is not on my shoulders, but my German upbringing shoulders. We have a historic burden that came out of 2 world wars. And people didn't speak up when they saw something wrong happening and are today still blamed for this. Why did you not do anything at the given time? I feel that it is, even if it's a discourse, we need to stand up and say something where we see something is wrong. And this is what I actually will always be standing for.
Thank you so much for that, Axel Tillman. Next is a public figure, a podcast host, a man who has helped dreams come true, really, with his training programs. Thank you for taking time to be with us, Ken. Go ahead, and what are the final thoughts? And really, what is it that you'd like to leave people with, not just regarding the debate, but the election in general? And since this conversation and this open forum has evolved and built a life of its own, which was my goal, to simply bring people together and step back and let nature take its course, because that's what sets us apart and that's what makes us different. You might not always like the results, but I want everyone to have a chance to speak, and I want everyone to speak what's on their mind. Now, Ken, final thoughts, and what is it that you'd like the audience with?
First, I want to say that Glenn there's nobody on this planet that I have ever met in 52 years that cares more about life than Glenn. And I have to say that because he is my best friend in the world. And the dude takes spiders outside. All right. I am the life. I end their lives. He doesn't, and he wouldn't. If I did it in front of him, he'd probably punch me. So, like,
No, I wouldn't. I would simply intervene.
He would. He would. I know he would. So there's nobody on the planet that cares more about.
Although,
life.
as I was intervening, he would look up at me as I was carrying him outside and say, "Now go back in the house and punch him in the face."
So I think that we need a lot less hatred and division and a whole lot more love. You know, this whole thing to me is absolutely insane. I can't stand it. This is exactly why. Yeah, he saves goldfish. That's a whole nother story. But anyway, I think that we all need to remember that career politicians are career politicians, and their entire existence depends on them convincing us that they're the right person for the job. And you know, for me, it's like I'm over politics. I will vote. I vote based on what I think is best for the economy and the future of my children. And that's it. So they can have the right to go out and create any kind of life that they want. So that's it. Vote from your heart, vote from your conscience, and you know, do what I do. Meditate first.
Thank you, Ken. I appreciate that. And just by hearing Glenn, I certainly share that sentiment. You know, I think that, like I said, that is what the world needs now, more than anything else. So thank you, Glenn, for generously sharing your wisdom with us today as well. And
You're
next
welcome.
is a gentleman who is very involved in the tax and financial industry. He's also a social media influencer. He's a very opinionated man on social media and has a huge following. And Andre Torres, just leave us with the final thoughts to the audience as far as what it is that you want to leave the audience with. The floor is yours.
It's all going to come down to love this election. Like Glenn was saying, Ken was saying, you have to vote with your heart. You got to vote for what you feel is right, not only for you, but for your family. You have a 10-year-old son who's only 10, and this election is going to maybe put into place some things that will affect him in the future when he's out of college, when he's in high school, the things that he's taught. I come from a Christian background, so I'm a very firm believer in praying, you know, one nation under God, all of those things that are kind of being picked out of schools, out of people's life. I see people trying to take those things out. And to me, having God as the center of not only my life, but as a nation in my family, that's something that I'm going to vote for. Yes, I understand Trump is not Christian, but he holds the values that I believe in. He holds those values, and he wants to protect those values, and that's the reason why I'm voting for Trump. I'm not voting for his past, so I'm just going to leave it with that. Search what's really in your heart and vote according to what's going to make you feel better, and what you feel and what you believe deep down inside, that's really going to affect your family in the future. You're not voting for yourself, but you're more voting for the kids that they have a future, and that if you can help them now, that's the way I want to leave it at.
Thank you, Andre Torres. And what I will say in closing, and then we will pass it to Natalie, is quite simply, the way I'm looking at this election is right now, the division is so deep, so widespread, that we need more conversations like this. So I'm seeing it as my duty and responsibility to create situations like this where Americans who don't normally see eye to eye have a chance to have a conversation. Is it going to be tough? Yes. But nothing ever happens that grows unless you go through toughness. And we need to set the example that we can come together and talk and speak. Because right now, especially with everyone being caught up in social media, if you think this way, your whole Facebook feed is just people that think just like you. If you think that way, your whole Facebook feed is people that think that way. So you get engulfed in nothing but people, news agencies, shows that agree with you. And that is destructive. So the way I'm being an active participant in this election cycle is by bringing human beings together And before I pass it off to Natalie, I want to ask everyone here, do you have love and respect for everyone else that's been on this panel? Please raise your hand.
I certainly do.
1000%.
And
Yes,
that's what it's all
absolutely.
about, ladies and gentlemen, watching this at home. You stuck with us for this last hour. It was raw, it was real, but at the end of it, we all raised our hands with love and respect, not only as Americans, but as citizens of the world. And in closing, we're going to let Natalie Forrest have the floor, say the final thoughts, and go ahead and, just let people know what's on your mind, Ms. Forrest. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Oh, for the first time, he called me Miss and not Doctor. I think we made progress. Okay. Okay. Fair warning. I'm a teacher by heart and a humanitarian by soul. It hurt the living daylights out of me to see the division in the comments and the lack of open-mindedness in a lot of the comments in the social media feed. It hurts me because we need to talk to one another, and to have things completely taken out of context, whether it is Glenn, whether it's something that Andre says, whether it's something that whatever we're saying, we're sharing, we're being vulnerable. And for that to be twisted because somebody has a closed mind, that really hurts, but it's also an indication of where we are right now in the United States and partially in the world. So for me, conversation has always been important, and the open-mindedness. I don't care who you vote for or what you stand for, as long as you know why. And that, to me, as a historian, is important. You have to know why, whether it's because you're voting or you want something for your 10-year-old kid, or because you believe that every life is precious, including the spider, including that little stink bug that's in my house. It doesn't matter. But we have so much division, and people are not hearing each other anymore. People have lost the ability to listen and hear before they talk. And I think that's really sad. And that's why I'm so grateful, not just for Glenn, but for everybody, for sharing and for being able to hear each other, whether we agree or disagree. I think this is a superb panel. And Glenn, I hope you will be doing more of these, because we often forget the humane aspect in all of that. I want to thank all of you for participating, for coming out and being yelled at, being supported at by social media. But I hope to talk with all of you more, because every opinion counts. Just know why you do what you do instead of because somebody said so. Thank you, Mo,
Hear,
for
hear.
Thank you.
letting this
Thank you.
happen.
Thank you so much. Final, real quick, if you're watching us on YouTube, remember to hit the subscribe button. If you're watching us on Facebook, like us on Facebook, and same is true on Periscope and Twitter. This is the Los Angeles Tribune. Join us again on the 15th when the second presidential debate is happening. Supposedly it's happening. If it happens, we will be here and we will be live and direct. And we got so many comments talking about a show with Ken and Glenn. So before we do end this, I want to give Ken an opportunity to let people know if you guys like the taste of the Ken and Glenn chemistry that you guys got. Go ahead and just plug your show, Ken. They
did. Nobody got our chemistry here. Like, it flows. Like, Glenn and I, we do a lot of live stream shows together. So we've been doing one on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, the Ken and Glenn show with a guy named Scott. But Glenn and I generally do something on a Friday or a Saturday night, just the Ken and Glenn show, where we get on and we just raise hell.
Thank you for that, Ken. And search for their show. And Donna Faulkner, I give you all credit for having the courage to talk about politics. We'll accept that, Donna. I think that's a nice comment. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Los Angeles Tribune Vice Presidential Debate Analysis. I'd like to thank all of our panelists yet again, and we will see you back on the 15th. We think we will. We think we'll see you on the 15th. Okay, take care, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you so much for
Thank
the
you.
service you guys are doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes.